It was the 1990s. The Clintons were in the White House. The internet was in its infancy, and boy bands were everywhere. But in the world of automotive, the scientists at Valvoline began to notice something. Cars were staying on the road longer than ever before. And that's why they set out to create the world's first high-mileage motor oil.
For cars with over 75,000 miles, life has just begun. Introducing Valvoline MaxLife motor oil.
So the way I remember it is that I was in a focus group session out in Los Angeles, and we were talking to people who owned older cars, DIYers especially. We were focused on DIY at the time, and we put this concept in front of them. It was almost immediate that the response was, well, if Valvoline made a product like that, I would switch. I would buy that product. I called Fran directly from the focus groups. I just said, Fran, you better get going, because I think we're onto something big.
The consumer insight that set MaxLife in motion was that people were keeping their vehicles longer. At that time, people kept their vehicles to a little less than 10 years on average. And in fact, today it's even longer.
I remember it as winter months, like say January of 1999, because I was driving a car that was burning oil at the time.
Both Sam and I had high mileage vehicles. In fact, I still like to tease him about the original vehicle, which didn't even have air conditioning. We went out to lunch, and I learned that the hard way.
And the paint was coming off the back a little bit. But my main concern was, because I love the car, it worked great, is that it was burning oil. So I said, well, what about burning oil? Is that something you can address, Fran?
And what most people don't realize, they're losing that acceleration, that power, that better fuel economy that they had when their vehicle was newer. That's what happens when you get deposits and ring wear. And of course, if you get seal leaks, you see it on your driveway.
And what was interesting is that there weren't any products that really were addressing some of those issues very well.
The rings have to move freely, and they have to be able to seal a thin oil film between the cylinder wall and the ring. And that's what allows the piston to create that pressurization of combustion. So deposits were very important to remove, and that's when we developed MaxLife.
This was more about, passion for the car.
But we wanted something special. We wanted something that no other company would have.
We were creating a brand new category, a brand new segment.
We not only had to run the routine testing, we had to run special testing to prove our claims.
And that was our commitment. We wanted the product, like people would notice a difference if they were having some of these issues with oil consumption or loss of horsepower.
Consumers were responding to this product right from the beginning.
We started on a good path, 20 years ago. And, it's all about leveraging the big V and the great Valvoline heritage that we have, with this idea of this new type of product coming from Valvoline.
We really benefited from the fact that Valvoline had always maintained a hands-on engine laboratory. They were able to see problems that even the industry's not talking about.
You really can't underestimate the importance of that innovation, and not just in what it did for us back in the early 2000s, but what it means to us today. Yeah, so that old Integra, which was burning oil at a rate of probably a quart every month or two, with MaxLife I only had to add a quart maybe a couple times a year. So years later, when I finally upgraded, got a new car, but I guess it's coming up on 17 years old.
But it does have air conditioning, he assures me.